I'm ZimZoe, and today's video I'm out and about, as you can see, because although as nice as it looks, I'm not here for the canal. I'm actually on my way out for the day and headed just about over there. I'll show you why. Our local fun fair has come to town, and I am going to be going on that, as much as it is out of focus. We're still in the queue, but they're testing some of the rides, and everybody else seems to be freaking out. But yeah, we try to figure out, the seats were locked before, which means when they get to the top they're upside down, but they seem to be swinging now. I can't wait to get on.
The waltzers were first because I didn't want to go on the big ride immediately, and by big ride I mean that tall one I've just shown you, because I don't actually know what it's called, but I usually call it Excalibur, even though Excalibur is a slightly different ride. Excalibur is kind of like, it's the same sort of height, but instead of 4 at the top and 4 at the bottom, it's 16 at the bottom in sort of a circle, and the bottom circle spins whilst the Excalibur sword swings from side to side. It's kind of like the waltzers plus a pirate ship. Anyway, I didn't want to go on that ride first because it would mean that the other cart was empty, so like the 4 at the bottom would be full, but the 4 at the top would be empty, and superstitious me didn't want to go on it because it would be uneven, and I don't know, I didn't want to go on it first. But anyway, it was a good thing we went on the waltzers first, because instead of like a 2-minute ride, we ended up getting a 5-minute one. And the reason you can see me swinging from left to right in this video is because whenever I go on the waltzers I try and get the best spin out of it, which is sort of leaning into the corners. Now, the reason I've had to do narration on this and put my own music in is because the music that was playing there was copyright. So just imagine me screaming in the background. And the narration is actually why this took so long to go up. But I made a promise in my last vlog, and so I was determined to keep it. So at least this got up eventually. Now, because of the narration, this has taken way longer than I expected it to, and was actually supposed to go up 2 days after it was filmed, e.g. the Wednesday after Easter Monday, but again, it didn't happen. Now, because it's narration, I'm also going to be treating this as a sort of catch-up thing between commentary on the video, because I've had a few weeks off between vlogs, and the actual audio of this video was just me screaming for a couple of minutes, so I couldn't exactly just leave it like that. So, during my time off, I saw Buddy again, and he's now had his hair cut, and he looks like a completely different dog. And we also learned a bit more about him, such as the fact that he gets grumpy once it becomes bedtime, and that it's difficult to tell where the line is with him. Now, what I mean by that is, he'll be, one minute he'll want to be stroked and he'll come up and just want to be like fuzzed and given attention, but the next he'll want to be left alone. But he doesn't give any visual difference between those two things. He'll just sit and stare at you either way. So we're still sort of getting used to where he draws the line, sort of what he does at certain things. But he's definitely a guy dog, and I don't mean guide dog, I mean like a guy's dog, a man's dog, because he doesn't like women as much, because he was raised with men. So he doesn't like my stepmother, but he adores my dad. So when I went, we were a little bit worried about how he would be with me, but Buddy absolutely loved me, and he even let me give him a belly rub, which even Dad was surprised about that, considering Buddy won't even let my stepmom or stepbrother give him a belly rub. Now, during this, the narration may fade in and out. That's just because I can't sit here and talk for 15 minutes because I haven't really done all that much between videos, because mainly I've been planning for the series of vlogs that are coming up next. So it's gonna cut out now, and I will cut in a bit later. After the waltzers, we went on the twister because it was right next to it and there was no queue. It was basically get off the waltzers, take 2 steps and straight onto the twister without having to wait. Now, the twister, or octagon as I've always known it, is basically 4 sets of seats on each of the 3 prongs, which spin as well as the prongs themselves spinning. So as you go around, you get flung by centrifugal force to the outside seats, which meant when I was younger, you could crush whoever was on the outside seat. But now I'm the one who sits on the outside seat and gets crushed. Now, I know I'm talking throughout this entire ride, but again, I had to mute it. The only thing I can really remember is when I flung my hand to my forehead, I was talking about my fringe flying up and how I'd be like a cockatiel. No idea. After this ride, we went on the Rage Cage, also known as the Hearts and Diamonds because they used to be card-shaped. But I'm talking about it now because the clip I got of it was only short, and the reason for that was because I couldn't film whilst I was on it. The Rage Cage scares me because the only quote-unquote harness that it has on it is a loose piece of chain that just sits in front of you and it keeps you in through centrifugal force. It sort of pushes you back against the seats, or I don't know what you call them, backboards, because you stood up on the ride. It's like the force on it is that strong that you can actually lift yourself off the ground once it's slow and be kept off the floor for the entire ride once it speeds up. Now, I wouldn't mind if the ride stayed on the ground, but the reason it scares me is because you're only kept in by this loose little chain and it lifts up part way through the ride so you can see the floor like directly in front of you. And knowing full well the only thing keeping you in is that flimsy piece of chain and centrifugal force. Now, there was actually a guy opposite me whilst I was on the ride who sat down on the floor for the entire ride with his legs crossed, and it was insane seeing him sat opposite me and being kept up by it. Here's the ride. Now, what I'm about to say is going to sound weird, because I'm going to say that the Rage Cage scared me, but this ride didn't. And the reasoning behind that is this one has a huge harness on it, so I feel way safer, and it feels like you're flying on it. Now, I spent a while at the top of this ride, as you're about to see, because people were getting off at the bottom and more people were coming in. But the view from up there was marvellous, because I could see all the way into Liverpool and past it, which is about 4.5 to 5 miles away. I figured that out once I got home. But I will say that one side of this ride is more scary than the other, because the side I was on for the first time, which is this side facing the camera, was less scary because as the arm swings back down towards the ground, we all get a view of the sky, whilst the other side is just see the ground plummeting up towards them. I think the only scary part of this ride was as it slowed down right towards the end, because as it slowed down, the chair literally swung the complete opposite direction, so it looked like we were about to plummet into the floor. But I will say that it's fun no matter what side you go on it. And if you get the chance, I'd say definitely have a go, even though it does look terrifying. It is really quite fun. After that, as the text said, I went on Miami Wave, or Drop Zone as it's called here. Now this is my favourite ride at these kind of fairgrounds, and I don't know why. It's just, I think it was because it was one of the first rides I went on, sort of like as young, because it didn't look terrifying, but at the same time it was one of those like, that looks so cool, like even the adults are going on it, even though none of the adults are going on it in the screen. Anyway, this one was different from most of the others that I normally go on because this one was way faster. And it really whipped us about from side to side. And it probably didn't help that I also sat between two girls with long hair that were just left free. So that when we went around, I kept getting attacked by their hair just flying about. Now, part of the way through this ride, it almost comes to a stop, which you've probably already seen. Now, I'm not entirely sure why that happened, but I think the guy who was controlling it was saying something to someone on like the right half of the ride. Anyway, I have no idea what he said, but whatever it was quick because we had barely stopped before we were off again. Now, the final ride I'm going to show you after this one is called Tagada, and I would never go on it. Basically, you sit in a large circle, kind of like in a bowl, with no harnesses or seatbelt type things, whilst the thing is thrown from side to side by very loud hydraulic pumps. In fact, I'm going to keep the sound in on that one so you can hear how loud it is as well. But it's not the sounds that keep me off it. What keeps me off it is the fact that the only thing keeping you in your seat is your own arm strength. And I have seen people get thrown from their seats and like across the floor of the bowl whilst riding it because they're like not strong enough. So that's a definitely no-go for me. But anyway, this is how I spent my Easter Monday. I mean, aside from the fact that I went on the rides multiple times and only filmed them once, I'd think I've summed this up quite well.
And that's it. That's what I did on my Easter Monday. The video's finally up. Finally done. Yay! Now we can move on. But my next vlog probably won't be uploaded until about a fortnight. Maybe a bit longer. Because, as I've said multiple times, it's going to be a series of stuff, but that's as much as I'm going into it. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and have a nice day.